Hello. I've been direct lighting here because it makes me feel better. But anyway, I changed my YouTube channel name to Lola Bear because I like Owen Benjamin and their community of people who chat. They're very nice people. And I figured it's not wise to use my name, so that's why I did that. Even though I said my name in a lot of videos already. But I may get rid of those videos eventually. So Lola means grandma in Tagalog. And my grandchildren call me Lola. So I figured Lola Bear is a good enough name. I couldn't think of anything else. So, because I talk about a lot of different subjects. I wanted to get back in the swing of making videos, and I have the 4th and 5th Amendment printed out. And I'm doing this in honor of Owen Benjamin's mom, because she got a threatening letter, somebody complaining about her because he did comedy they didn't like. And he made a big deal of it on a live stream the other day, and I support him wholeheartedly for that. Even he's kind of backpedaling a little now because the school is supporting his mom and she's not going to be fired. And it's the next day since I've heard of it. This is March, I think, 15th, 2019. But he did not overreact, and he didn't say one thing wrong. Calling himself a warlord and saying he's sticking up for his mom and going 100% is exactly the right thing to do, because it could have gone either way. It could have gone where, somebody got a bug and just decided to see it all the way through and harass her till she got fired, or you just don't know. People can complain all they want, but things can turn badly very quickly. And I had made a list of videos I'd had on my heart to talk about the 4th and 5th Amendment and Sam's Club policy about the receipt, because I was falsely arrested a few years back. And this could happen to anybody. I was targeted. I think there's a scheme in Norfolk to arrest people just for the fines and for the money mill of the bondsman getting his pay and the lawyers getting their pay and the courts getting their fees and then the fines. So I really think there's a scheme about this. First, I had a dream about it years ago, and I haven't drawn the picture, so I'm going to do a separate video with that dream. I have to draw the picture up really good of the scene of this dream where people were being funneled past this police officer. But what happened to me was a Sam's Club employee freaked out on me for no reason, yelled and screamed at me at the door, grabbed my cart, and demanded to see the receipt I had already showed her. It was like acting. She just decided to freak out and yell and scream at me. I had my receipt already signed from the self-checkout, and I stopped. I walked very slowly and calmly. They could see me on video through the entire store. Very calmly. I'm 54 years old. I was maybe 51 or 2 back then. I've been shopping my entire life and never been arrested, never been suspected of shoplifting, never had bad behavior in a store. I'm polite and nice. I'm a mother of 6 children. Teach kids not to steal and not to lie and not to cheat and to be respectful to people and follow the rules. But I do expect the rules to be followed on my behalf. Also, we live in America and it's a free country. So the Sam's Club policy is this. That's the Sam's Club policy. And it simply states, Sam's policy: to ensure that you are charged correctly for the merchandise you have selected, you will be requested to show your receipt when exiting. That's it. No, if you don't hand the receipt into my hand, I will sic the sheriff on you. No, I can yell and scream at you and abuse you and you have to stand here and take it. None of that. It just says we'll ask you to show because we want to make sure you're not being cheated. And I always stop and show my receipt anyway, even though I think it borders on losing freedoms. They can see you on the cameras. They have store security. They know if you're stuffing things in your pocket or running around trying to sneak out the door fast or something. I walked very slowly and calmly. I stopped at way before the exit, like 6 feet before is where the employee was, and I showed the receipt with 6 items. Very easy to see, and see that there was a signature from the checkout. I said, I already got checked at the checkout, but here's my receipt. And she yanked my cart, screamed at me, and said, "Get out to me!" and started yelling and screaming. Really, and I had post-traumatic stress, so it triggered me. And I just said, I feel like I'm being assaulted. And she just started ranting and raving and stomping her feet up and down and ran away. And I just left and said, I think I need a lawyer. And I went outside to the bike rack. I'm on a fixed income on my share of retire pay from an enlisted Navy man, 20 years married. I have a very small fixed income. I rode my bike to Sam's Club. So I'm at the bike thing, undoing my lock, putting the 6 items, which are large, double dish soap, a case of tomato sauce and a case of tomato paste, along with other groceries in this little milk cart on the back of my bike that I'd gotten. I was going to make homemade pizzas. A gallon, I don't know, cream and Parmesan cheese. 6 items, very plain to see. And I'm putting them in there, and a little crowd of customers were around hearing this lady throw a fit and were looking at me, and I just said, I have post-traumatic stress disorder, please leave me alone. And there's a camera right there by the bike thing too. And I finished loading up my stuff, got on my bike, and rode away. It was a very, very windy day. And there were some kids screaming in the parking lot while their parents were putting their groceries in. It's noisy. Walmart's right next door, and then Sam's. And then I was riding my bike to the corner, and I got to the light. It was a red light, and I stopped. And then somebody grabbed the back of my bike, and I turned to put my hand on my basket because, I couldn't turn and look backwards. I would fall over. I'm not that good of a rider. And the sheriff, but I thought it was just a store security guard because she had a yellow vest on, grabbed my arm, and I very calmly, because I was freaked out, but then that weird calm comes over you once you calm down, and I was just in shock. So I was very calm, just sitting there what on earth just happened? And I said, why are you putting your hand on me? Kind of like that, I was in slow motion. And she took it off right away, and she said, you stole stuff from Sam's. I said, no, I didn't. And I laid my bike down, I stood up right by the handlebars, took the receipt out of my pocket, and I showed her. And she did the same exact thing the lady in the store did. She raised her voice really loud and she said, give me that! And I was really super weirdly calm now. And I know it's my right, that it's my property, and I don't have to hand it over to her. They have no probable cause that I stole anything. So I could have given it to her, but with her behaving so unprofessionally and illegally, I thought she could just throw it away and act like it didn't exist. I said, no, I showed it to you, and here's the stuff. I'd really rather not. And then she started demanding I show her identification, and I said, I'd really rather not. And I said, I think I need other police here, because I was just standing there, and I called my son on the phone. I forget the exact order. I have it all written down. But all I heard was hello, and then it was static, and it was very, very windy, and I never heard another word. But I was starting to cry, saying, these people are trying to arrest me for no reason. I don't know why. I didn't do anything wrong. I showed my receipt, and there was nothing. But I'm still waiting to hear if, I was on hold, or if he was going to come back, or I didn't know what. So I just kept the phone by my ear, or this ear. And she was saying weird stuff. She started dragging my bike around on the sidewalk. I had laid it down on the curb, so it was on the green part of the grass next to the sidewalk, next to the street, just out of the street, because my tire was exactly by the curb. And when I laid it down, the whole bike was out of the street on the curb. And she started dragging my bike. I said, where are you taking my bike? Really slow like that, too, retardedly slow, because I was in shock. She said, I'm getting it out of the damn street. She was theatrical, Keystone Cops type of theatrical. It was ridiculous. Absurd. She was cursing at me and screaming and belligerent and way over the top for no reason. And when she saw me on the phone, she said, I could call people too. So she's way over by the switching box for the thing. I'm just standing on the corner on the sidewalk. Then I stepped onto the grass on the other side of the sidewalk because I didn't want to be obstructing a thoroughfare. I know the laws. I know my rights. I'm not causing trouble to anybody. I'm riding my little bike with 6 items from Sam's and a few items from Walmart, and I showed my receipt twice in the store. The man signed it in his hand and gave it to me, and I showed it to the lady at the door of my own volition. She didn't ask me. I stopped and showed her. And then when the cop stopped, I showed her. And there's a signature and the date and the 6 items. And she screamed at me. And then when she said she could call people too, I heard her telling the guy really loudly, which was very theatrical, and she doesn't even have a receipt. It was insane. It was insanity. I was just set up. And I took it out of my pocket again. I said, but I showed you, it's right here. And she stared straight at it, and she lied and said, no, that's not it. So she was just a liar. and an actor, and I don't know why, except for money. It's the only thing I can figure. They just target people and get their fees of the bail bondsman gets his fee, but mine didn't, because my son paid for me and got all his money back. And even the bail bondsman was shocked when my son went downtown and whipped out cash. He was like, "Oh," because they target poor people. They target people off the disability rolls. That's where they get the list from, because they know they're weak and they don't have a car, they can't drive, or they're in pain, or they're disabled in some way. And I have incontinence. There's no way I would be running out of the store trying to steal stuff. I was riding super, super slow, barely making it on my little beach cruiser bike. So she's over there. She never told me to stay. It was very, very windy. She was muttering under her breath, talking to herself, talking to this guy on the phone. And after a long time standing there, because I have post-traumatic stress, I started shaking like uncontrollably. And I'm like, I don't want to be standing here. It's like 5 o'clock on a Friday or something. Very heavy traffic, very, very windy. I don't know why she's lying, saying I don't have a receipt when I do. I don't know why the lady in the store screamed at me. I don't know why she screamed at me. I felt like I was in the twilight zone. I was about to have a nervous breakdown because I have post-traumatic stress. And they know it from the disability rolls. Post-traumatic stress and incontinence. So, after a long time waiting, I didn't hear my son. Nobody was saying anything. I said, I don't want to be here anymore. I knew I had a right to not be detained. She hadn't charged me with anything. She hadn't told me to stay. And so I said, I'm going to leave. And I said it really loud because she was a few feet away. I don't want to be here anymore. Keep my bike. I don't care. I want to go. I don't want to be here. So I looked at her. She looked at me. I told her what I had to say. I said it multiple times. She just stared at me. And so I said, okay, I'm going to go now. And I turned and I walked away, and then she grabbed my hood from behind and choked me. So I had my phone in my hand here. And then I stopped. I took a couple steps because I staggered, and then I stopped. And I said, because I asked her on the corner, am I under arrest? And she said no. I said, I'm under arrest. And she said no. So I said, I'm going to go now. I'm going to go now. I'm going to go now. And she just stared at me. She was setting me up. If she wanted me to stay, she could have said, no, stay. I have something I need to work out. But it was all a lie. It was a farce. So then, when she's grabbed me, she was grabbed me up under and pulled my hood and then grabbed me up under my arm. And I said, am I under arrest? And she said, you are now. And you're going to jail. You're going to jail. It was just comical if it weren't real life. And I'm out $3,500 of a fine because the obstruction of justice charge stuck even before a trial of peers, and the assault on police officer charge was dismissed. I did not assault a police officer. It's ridiculous. It's criminal what they did to me. They have to have probable cause before sticking a sheriff on you. And not standing and taking abuse is not probable cause. They have it on their video cameras that I let the man sign it at self-checkout, and I stopped of my own volition and showed it to the lady at the door. So, I was in bed for 3 days after that. I was suicidal because I have post-traumatic stress. My brain isn't functioning right. I'm thinking the whole world's against me. Even now I'm tearing up because, why do people have to be evil and not make sense? It doesn't make sense. This is the thing. I looked it up online, and there's a lot of stories online where people say the manager threatened them, said, I'll slap you in the face and call the police and have you arrested. They're just big for their britches. They know they have the courts in their pocket. These corporations know they can do what they want. And then the crooked judges and the crooked city treasurers or whoever else is involved. We've had a city treasurer here recently. I think he was indicted and convicted and found guilty. Embezzlement or something. So there's a whole little system going on throughout the country, probably around the world, just crooked people doing what they want. But I know here, that was just crooked. And the Sam's Club policy does not allow for that. So it took me a week to even just be able to get out of bed and function. My brother's here, my son was here, and they were helping me. I tried to write it all down that first night, but I was shaking and I couldn't talk. And then I slept for a couple hours, got up and wrote it down. Oh, it's 14 minutes. I tried to find a lawyer online. I made a bunch of phone calls in the second week. I don't have a car, and my son was working, and my brother was doing stuff. He didn't have a car. I finally borrowed my son's car and rode down to the 7-Eleven, and their cameras are pointed straight at their parking lot, not at the intersection. And it just made me discouraged, where I didn't have the umption to fight for myself. I didn't have money to even get a taxi. I just can pay my bills, and that's it. And I was praying about it, and I didn't feel like to drum up a lot of support. My one daughter was very pregnant, and I had to go see her, and my other... So I got permission from the court to fly to Wyoming and back, and then later I got permission from the court to fly to Florida and back, because it dragged on for like, I think 2 years, 2 years. I have to look it up. I wanted to read the 4th and 5th Amendments and the Virginia law, but also mention the first lawyer I got, my son paid $3,500 for her, and she asked the judge for permission to go to Wyoming, which I could have done that myself. And she was very rude. The first interview was nice, but then she was very rude to me when we met at Sam's outside to take pictures and walk around. She talked to me very, very meanly, and said I was stupid and weird, and why did I leave my bike? And I said, well, I would value my freedom. I'd rather not have to stand there for no reason, and no one told me I had to stay. So when we got before the judge, after a bunch of hearings and a bunch of delays, the prosecutor had a death in the family, and then I asked for a delay because I had to get a lawyer, and then I asked for permission to go to Wyoming, and I got permission for that, and I came back after my daughter's baby was born. And then when I had this lawyer, I asked her to ask for the videotape, and she wouldn't do it. I said, is there video on the intersection? Because there's cameras. I see there's red light cameras. And Sam's has video cameras. I saw them all over. And she said, no, they won't give it to us because it's going to be against them, so they won't give it. I'm like, yeah, but you ask for it, and then that's proof that they wouldn't produce it. She wouldn't do it. My own lawyer wouldn't even put in a request for the judge to subpoena them to give them the video evidence. First thing I asked for, the evidence would show me innocent. And then when we stood before the judge, and she started saying, this precedent case and that precedent case, you're allowed to hit a police officer if you feel like your life is threatened. And I started arguing with her in front of the judge, saying, I disagree with this. I don't think it's okay to hit a police officer. And she was saying, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up. Seriously, it was exactly kangaroo court like that video. And I said, no, I don't agree that you're allowed to hit a police officer. Why are you using that as my defense when I never heard this before in my life? And when we left there, she was really mad at me. So I said, I want a trial. I don't want to. Because he said, okay, sentencing will be. And I'm like, what are you talking about? It was a hearing. And all of a sudden it was a trial. And he was going to declare my sentencing. And I was guilty. And I said, no, I want a trial. And then it got continued again. So then it got continued to another pretrial hearing. And now she was trying to get me to make this deal of 6 months in jail and community service, or just do 10 days, or just do 3 days. I'm like, I'm not going to jail. I have certain medicines I take, and I have bathroom issues, and I have heart issues, and it would probably kill me. I'm not doing it. I don't even have a car to drive to community service. And I'm not doing it. No, I'm innocent. So first she explained the deal, and I said, okay, I'll take the deal if you're my lawyer and you're smart and you're telling me this is the thing to do. Okay, so you just signed that you're guilty. I said, no, I'm not signing that I'm guilty. Well, do not contest. Well, that's a no. That's a guilty no. I'm innocent. I pled innocent the entire time. So then it went through the first phase like that, and I wanted to go to trial, so I was done. The $3,500 ran out, I guess. I'd have to pay her more if she was going to take me to trial. So I went and asked for a court-appointed attorney, and I got one. And he was no better. He was very rude. I was praying about it a lot, and I just kept repenting and saying, God, I'm sorry for my sins. And, if I was a wily person and a more wise person, I could have stood there, asked for the manager, asked for the footage right then and there, called the police on the spot for my own self. But I have a problem with authority, not in not obeying it. I have the fear of authority from abuse from my childhood. And I just freeze and I can't think and I shake and I cry and I wouldn't be any help to myself. Maybe a person who didn't have post-traumatic stress could stand there and request the manager and say, you know, I want this dealt with right now. You're abusing and harassing me. I just walked away calmly, slowly, on my bike, like a little old lady pedaling her bike in a big windy day. And I had proof of the wind speed was over 22 miles an hour that day. The court-appointed lawyer wouldn't let me speak, wouldn't let me ask questions, which I learned from watching some of these common law informational videos. You're there and you're not to embarrass the court and you can only answer their questions. Common law court is different, where you're allowed. I was never allowed to tell my story like I'm telling you now. I could only answer questions of my attorney, and he didn't even ask me good questions. He didn't care. And he wouldn't submit the wind speed evidence that I asked him to submit. That if she had called me, I didn't hear her. I didn't hear her call me, and she never told me stay. And I told her very politely and nicely, she assaulted me. The Sam's Club employee assaulted me. They both lied. So these are the rights that were violated. Their policy says they'll request it. Their policy says nowhere what they'll do if you don't show it. And there's nothing on the law saying you have to show a receipt or that's considered probable cause to detain you. And everybody needs to know this, and this is why I'm sticking up for Owen Benjamin's mom, because any store you go into, they could just say, oh, you have to show us the receipt. Once it's yours, it's your property. The receipt is your property. The items are your property. And they're molesting your person to grab a cart out of your hands and scream at you. It's abusive. And it could happen to anybody. I'm not special. It could happen to anyone. And I would have fought it more if I had more wherewithal, if I had a car, if I had the money, if it wasn't going to cause me emotional upset, if I thought the courts weren't crooked and it would do any good. And I knew my daughters needed me. I had to go be with them. She had nobody else in the middle of nowhere on an Air Force base in Wyoming by herself. And then later I had to go to Florida with my daughter who had, 10-pound babies, and she needed somebody with her. So I had to go with her. I couldn't appeal when it went to trial and they found me guilty of obstruction of justice when there was no injustice committed. And I stopped and showed everyone the information, and I was cooperative. I just stood up for my right to not be unlawfully detained, which she didn't say I had to be detained. Anyway, they just screamed at me and abused me and lied. So my lawyer from the court that was free I asked him to get the video footage. It's too late, they won't do it. And even in the court, he said, asked the police officer, why didn't you, on cross-examination? And she just shrugged her and said, I don't know, it was just something that slipped my mind. No. If you don't have the video evidence and the video evidence is available, it should be dismissed out of hand. That's it. They're obviously lying, or they would produce the video. There's no reason not to. If you're a security guard working for Sam's, you know this. And if you're a police officer off-duty working for Sam's or a sheriff, you know better. It should have been dismissed. But none of the lawyers worked for me. They worked for the dollar and for the courts. And the police officer didn't work for me. She worked for whatever scheme they had going on or whatever targeting they wanted to do. And the jurors were all clueless. The police officer looks like they're trustworthy because they're a 21-year police officer. And you just look like you're guilty because you're labeled a defendant. And you're not allowed to tell your story. And there was just enough probable cause. It didn't obstruct any justice. They actually did keep my groceries, and they kept my cell phone. I went to the court to try to get it, and it wasn't there. And the groceries are gone. So, okay. Here's the Virginia law, which harkens back to, they like to say, shopkeeper privilege, which is from English law, which we're supposed to be free from England, and they're trying to put this admiralty law across America, which we fought a lot to get rid of that. Defamation. It says number 3 in this. I lost my first page of it. It's Virginia law. You can look it up. The codes are all there listed. This is number 3 is defamation. Claims of defamation may arise when a shopper is wrongfully accused of a crime. I can claim they defamed me. I was wrongfully accused of a crime. Virginia recognizes a qualified privilege, in quotes, when communications are made in good faith and in conjunction with the performance of security or operational functions in guarding against the theft of goods. So they're saying their security guard was guarding against the theft of goods when she harassed me and screamed at me and grabbed my cart. The qualified privilege is applicable when a defamatory communication is made in good faith. So she was abusing me in good faith? On any subject matter in which the person communicating has an interest or in reference to which he has a duty. So the security person has a duty if someone's behaving suspiciously or stuffing things in their pants or running out the door or acting shifty. If made to a person having a corresponding interest or duty. I did none of those things. I behaved calmly and politely. And I showed the receipt 4 times. Twice in the store and twice outside. And the first time it was in the man's hand and he signed it. So this does not apply. Their qualified privilege does not apply. And none of my lawyers argued this. Because I had no probable cause. I had no shifty behavior. Number 4, negligent hiring, retention, or supervision. I'm not saying they're negligent in their hiring, retention, or supervision of employees. This lady acted how she wanted to act. I don't know. Plaintiffs who claim they were wrongfully accused of shoplifting may also claim that the employee was improperly hired, trained, or supervised. I mean, if they condone this kind of activity, it is negligent. A claim based on negligent hiring and supervision requires the plaintiff to prove that the employer knew of the employee's propensity to commit the alleged acts. And the thing is, if enough people start coming forward and telling the truth about being harassed by Sams, you could file a suit against them that, of course, they know, because this is happening a lot. Commit the alleged acts or that the defendant should have known of such propensity by conducting a background search on the employee. Conclusory statements in opposition to proof of pre-hiring investigation into employees' qualifications will be sufficient to overcome a motion for summary judgment. If they showed that they did an investigation prior to hiring them, they can just blame the employee. You can only sue the employee, not the store. Number 5 is shopkeeper immunity. So here's the whole thing. 3, and I just read you 4. And there's 5. And that's 3. Shopkeeper immunity. Virginia, like most other states, recognizes a so-called shopkeeper's privilege. Quote, and they told me it harkened back to British law, to the Crown. Exempting from civil liability a merchant and the merchant's employees from all unlawful detention, false imprisonment, or false arrest claims brought by another person. If the merchant or its employee had probable cause to believe that the person had shoplifted or had willfully concealed goods or merchandise. However, this privileged detention under Virginia law shall not exceed 1 hour in length. So they're saying the shopkeeper has a privilege of immunity to just detain you for an hour for no reason. No, it has to have probable cause. And the probable cause is not that I would not stand for being harassed and screamed at. I walked away and said, I need a lawyer. I feel like I'm being assaulted. There was no probable cause. They were the probable cause. They were just acting insanely. So that's the law, and they weren't following the law. That's Sam's Club policy. They weren't following their own policy. Here's the 5th Amendment, which people need to educate themselves on this. Here's the 5th Amendment. You can freeze the video and look at that. You can Google it. There's the 4th Amendment. Everybody needs to be educated on this because they're not teaching it in the schools. The first lawyer I called who was out of the city, out of the area, said my 4th and 5th Amendments were violated. But he was too far away and it would have cost more, over $4,000 for him. So he recommended someone closer. The 4th Amendment of the United States, of the United States Constitution. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects, groceries, receipts, against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. She had no probable cause. I had no bad behavior. The 5th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. Otherwise, if we don't go by this, then we're all just agreeing they can just detain any of us for an hour whenever they want for their shopkeeper's privilege for no reason. And that's not what it says. Even the shopkeeper's privilege is not for no reason. It has to be a probable cause. and they have to prove it. No person shall be held to answer. This is the Fifth Amendment. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia when in actual service in time of war or public danger. Nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be put twice in jeopardy of life or limb, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. It was just ridiculous that I was detained for no probable cause. There was no probable cause, and the courts have become lax, and they have become... I like the dim light. I'm sorry, guys, if it bothers you. I just really don't want to look at myself and my bags under my eyes. There was no probable cause, and the lawyers didn't help me. The private lawyer got paid a lot of money, didn't help me. Public defender didn't help me. Even the jurors, yeah, they couldn't tell what was up from the evidence given them because the full story wasn't laid out by how it was questioned, and they just split it 50-50, figuring must have done something wrong. See, wow. So I'm paying $3,500 in fines and court costs, $50 a month for probably 6 years, for something I did not do. And it's crooked. And that's the Fourth Amendment and the Fifth Amendment. And you all need to think about it, that this seems like not a big deal. And I would have asked for my friends at CBN to get a lot of support for me. And I would have asked for to be on TV or whatever. But I knew emotionally I couldn't handle it. I couldn't do it. I'm sorry. I'm not the person who could do that. Financially and emotionally, I couldn't do it. And I had to leave the state for one daughter, and I had to leave the state for another daughter. So when that decision came down, I should have appealed. But I know the courts are crooked, and I don't have time and energy and money to appeal to crooked courts. Now that President Trump has gotten an honest man on the Supreme Court, and pretty soon 3 more judges, I'm believing, God willing, will be turned over on the Supreme Court. And recently, an appellate court judge has been appointed who is a constitutionalist. Now is the time going to be where you can appeal and get justice. But when all the judges are crooked and they're either blackmailed or they're crooked, you know, the regular person who's low income, disabled, and doesn't have a wide amount of support, you know, my son is already helping his whole family. He helps all his brothers and sisters. He already put out cash for me. He's already helping me every month with food, you know. I prayed about it and I didn't feel to appeal. I did pray about it and feel to go to trial. I wanted to really have nothing to do with it because I knew it was a scam. I knew it was some kind of a setup. You know when people are acting and when they're lying to your face. And it's just absurdly ridiculous. Just like this letter about Owen Benjamin's mom that somebody wrote. It's absurdly ridiculous. So a lot of these things are happening all over the United States. I know a lady friend of mine in Florida who was disabled, and she rode out the door of Walmart, and there was something underneath the basket she couldn't see, and she was waiting to be picked up, and security guard came out and had her arrested, and she could have just said, "I'm sorry, I didn't know that was there. Please take it." You know, intent matters, and to attack disabled people is very shameful. That criminal people prey on the weak is very shameful, but that's what they do. So I'm just stating this for posterity. This is the truth. This is what happened. These are the rights that we should be standing up for, and that's the Sam's Club policy and the law, the Virginia law. It was a travesty of justice. I did nothing wrong. If I wasn't someone with PTSD, I could have stood there and fought it on the spot, and probably been very rich right now, because of the videotape showing how they harassed me. But it wasn't calm. She yelled and screamed at me. She was a short, chubby woman, and she stomped her feet and jumped up and down and was waving her fists. It was very comical, but it was ridiculous. It was very threatening at the moment. So anyway, I'm going to make some more videos. Thank you for bearing with me. And I pray you get something from these videos. If you're seeking the Lord and you're seeking inner healing, and some wisdom from the Word that's not spoken about other places, watch my videos, except for the one explaining the spiritual side of the arrest. I've rambled on about scriptures and I didn't get to the point. That's the only one I don't really like. Other ones, you can get something out of it if you pray. That's how I use my channel. Pray and ask the Holy Spirit what to watch, what timing for you, what would speak to you, because I say these things when it's on my heart to do, and it's the Holy Spirit and it's the truth. And I'm testifying to the truth. So God bless you all. I love you in the Lord. Bye.